NFL fans, what is going on? Today we're going to be doing a full 2-round mock draft for all 32 teams. Every selection in the first 2 rounds. I'm really excited about it, guys. Let's get into it. We're going to be wrapping up mock draft season. The draft 2 days away, guys. I'm really excited about it. Thank you guys so much for all your support. We just crossed 15,000 subscribers. You guys are the shit. Okay, Titans, they're on the board. Head coach Brian Callahan, not a big fan of our guy Will Levis, right? So they're going to go Cam Ward. It's pretty chalky, but that's kind of the way it goes. There are reports that the Browns and Giants are both fielding calls for people to move up. Who could they be moving up to get? Could it be Genty, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter? I think the Browns or the Giants would have to be blown away by a package, right? But for me, I think the Browns are going to stick and pick here, guys. And they're going to go Travis Hunter. They see him as a wide receiver. He could really boost that room. It's not a great room right now, wide receiver-wise or cornerback-wise. I mean, we've never seen a player like Travis Hunter where he's a top 5 guy at 2 positions heading into the draft. Top 5 wide receiver and top 5 cornerback. 100%. I think the Browns go Travis Hunter. And then the Giants, they're on the board here. If they want to have an identity to this team, adding Abdul Carter to Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence can do just that. And this front 7 is really, 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 really good. Like Superman good. They're going to combine for, got to think 15 to 25 sacks next year, right? I'm going Abdul Carter, number 3. And this is where it gets interesting, guys. I think they're going to trade this pick. And I'm making moves. And I'm doing it with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones just came out and said they're working on some substantial trades. This is going to be a substantial trade. 4 and 12. We're going to be swapping them. They're also going to throw in 44 and maybe a 2 next year? Yeah. So this is what we're going to do. Patriots fans are going to get a haul. Cowboys fans, this is a lot to go up to get. I think this is a little bit too much. So I'm going to go 12, 44, and a 3rd round pick next year. So you're moving back 8 spots. You're picking up the Cowboys' 2nd round pick. And the Cowboys are giving up a 3rd round pick next year in 2026. So we're going to offer this trade. Trade was accepted. Here we go. Cowboys fans, you're trading up and you're getting your man, Ashton Genty. The Jaguars, the Raiders, they're all in play. So are the Bears. Ashton Genty goes number 4 to the Cowboys. Now, Jaguars fans, you're on the board at number 5. You could go Tet McMillan and have the Twin Towers on the outside with Brian Thomas Jr. That makes a lot of sense. You could go Mason Graham here. But Liam Cohen, he's an offensive-minded guy. And Trevor Lawrence had a ton of success the last few seasons with a tight end by the name of Evan Ingram, who is now out of town. So the Jaguars are throwing a wrench into this draft again here, guys. Tyler Warren goes number 5 to the Jaguars at number 5. I'm so excited about this, man. I think Tyler Warren fits into that offense with Brian Thomas Jr. And then all of a sudden, you got some juice there. Some juice for the Jaggies. All right. Now, no Genty for the Raiders. Do they go Omarion Hampton here? I'm seriously considering that. But with Mason Graham still on the board here, they need some D-line help. They dealt with some injuries last year on the D-line. I'm going Mason Graham to the Raiders at 6. And now, number 7 overall is the Jets. A lot of places they could go. Will Campbell is definitely in play here at number 6 for the Jets. So is Armand Membu. I just like Armand Membu's length. 6'3", 314. Will Campbell coming in, 6'6", 323. But those shorter arms concern me a little bit. But I think if you draft Armand Membu here, you have a true right tackle who's been a right tackle all 3 years in college. You know, a little bit on the smaller size for NFL tackles, for sure, right? So there's the risk. Do you go Armand Membu here, or do you go Will Campbell and kick him over to the right side? You know what? I'm throwing another wrench into this draft. I'm going Will Campbell to the Jets at 6. Kick him out the right tackle. Then you got Olu Fashanu and Will Campbell. Woo, baby. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, now, Panthers, you're up at number 8. I think Tetairoa McMillan is a serious consideration for the Panthers at number 8. A lot of people, most people, I feel like every mock drafter that I've watched that I respect is going Jalen Walker here, man. But, like, make it make sense to me, guys. Make this make sense to me. 72 overall grade, 73, excuse me. Run defense grade, 62. Coverage grade, 67. Run stops, 300th in the nation. Okay, PFF grades are not objective, right? There's a ton of different variables that go into getting these grades. Some of the stuff is weighted more than others, but when you look at this guy objectively, completion percentage against 83%. That's crazy high, dude. And the run stops is crazy low. So if I'm a defense and Jalen Walker's staring at me on the outside, I'm running right at him. I'm throwing screens and crossers right in his direction all day long. I don't like the pick, but it seems to be that's the chalk. So I'm going to go with the chalk here, even though I don't agree with it. If I'm the Panthers, I'm taking Tetairoa McMillan. But it seems like from the way Panthers coaches are talking and people in the know, more in the know than me that are actually talking to scouts, Jalen Walker's the pick. So, for better or for worse. Now, with the Saints losing Ryan Ramczyk to retirement and Armand Membu still being on the board, that's a match made in heaven. They could go Tet McMillan too. Chris Olave has dealt with a myriad of injuries, concussion related, right? So, he could be one or two more big hits away from having to retire. So, that could be interesting. Or do you make a play for the future, bring in a right tackle, Armand Membu, who people really love? I'm going to err on the side of right. They need a right tackle desperately. Bring in the best right tackle in this draft. It seems like it's a perfect marriage. Now, Bears fans, you're on the board at number 10. Somebody on my earlier mock draft was like, Omarion Hampton's not that good. Yeah, okay, dude. Put the tape on, man, and actually open your eyes. Omarion Hampton, when it's all said and done, sorry guys, I got some dog hair floating around in my eye, might be the best running back in this draft class when it's all said and done. When we look back 5 years from now and look back on this draft, Omarion Hampton can do it all. Gap grade, zone scheme, super elusive. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. He almost added 400 freaking yards receiving the football out of the backfield, right? And he's a beast. 73 missed tackles forced. 73 top 10. Zone attempts top 14. Yards after contact, second in the nation. Over 1,200 freaking yards. That's more yards than most running backs get in totality. But yeah, he's not that good. Dudes are such clowns. But 6'1", 220, he is picture perfect size. That is the perfect size. If you're creating a player on Madden, it's Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton goes to the Bears at number 10. Woo! All right, now, 49ers fans, you're on the board here at number 11. A lot of different places you can go, but I think they got to address the D-line. Walter Nolan's not falling anymore. He goes to the 49ers. Pair him up with Nick Bosa because, goodness gracious, that whole team has been decimated. They're preparing to pay Brock Purdy, so they had to kick out everyone on the roster pretty much, right? Now, this is a great scenario for the Patriots, right? I thought Tetairoa McMillan was in serious play to be the 4th pick overall in this draft if they stuck and pick. It was between Ted McMillan and Will Campbell for me if they stuck at 4. But now they get Ted McMillan at number 12 and they get 44 overall. I love it. I love it, Patriots fans. I love it. Now, Dolphins fans. Ramsey looks like he's getting traded. Javon Holland is gone. But, the safety room there is trash. The cornerback room is trash. Where do you go? Do you go Malachi Starks or do you go Will Johnson? Johnny Barron is in play too because I do like his versatility. That makes a lot of sense because very fast guy, can play outside corner. Only 1 year of outside experience though in college. That would scare me a little bit. I think the guy with the highest floor is Malachi Starks because Will Johnson's dealing with the injury. Johnny Barron only has 1 year of outside corner experience, but you could kick him out to safety or nickel and he'll find a home. But you don't draft a guy to find a home at number 13 overall. Malachi Starks makes a lot of sense. This guy could be a generational talent. Kyle Hamilton level of a talent. He's really, really good, man. Lower weight. He's got long wingspan. Top speed is very impressive with the sprinter background. Pre-snap communicator. He's always putting people in position to play. And you need a general on your defense. And I love that. I'm going Malachi Starks to the Dolphins at 13. Now, Colts fans, you're on the board. Colts could go anywhere. They could go anywhere. Tight end, guard, edge, linebacker, safety, you name it. They freaking need it. But I love Colston Loveland, man. Some people don't love him because, he only had 580 yards or whatever it was. Dude, the quarterback play at Michigan was cheeks. Super stinky booty cheeks. And this dude still had 5 touchdowns and almost 600 yards. He was targeted 82 times. Only had 56 receptions and 2 drops. So that means the other, 20 passes were not catchable balls. That just goes to show you the level that they're dealing with. Colston Loveland goes to the Colts at 14. Now, Falcons, you're up 15 and 46, right? I think the Cardinals are definitely in a trade down situation. We can see how that plays out at the next pick. Okay, so now, Falcons fans, you're on the board at 15. Everyone's mocking him there. I think it makes the most sense. I'm going Mike Green. There are character issues, but the Falcons are not in a position to be worried about character issues right now. They need pass rush help so bad. Bring him in. All right. Now, there are 4 teams interested in moving up at this spot. That's the Steelers, the Texans, the Browns, and New England. So, we'll have to see how this plays out. The Texans could make some sense here, but I don't know if they need I don't know if the Texans would trade up. When I'm looking at these teams, none of these teams really need to trade up, in my opinion. Maybe the Steelers trade up for a quarterback. But you know what? With Will Johnson still being on the board, for me, the Cardinals are drafting between Kenneth Grant and Will Johnson. But in my opinion, I think outside corner is a bigger need, and Will Johnson is so freaking good, man. I'm going Will Johnson to the Cardinals at 16. Now, Bengals fans, you're up at 17 overall. They need someone in that middle of the defense to be a general. I've seen a lot of people mocking offensive line. So what? Joe Burrow's going to be back to having to score 50 fucking points a game to win? Why would you draft offensive line here? That makes no sense to me at all whatsoever. When you could bring in the best linebacker I've seen in a long time, Edgerrin Cooper I loved last year, but I might like Jahad Campbell even better than Edge Cooper, who had an incredible year for the Packers last year. I'm going Jahad Campbell 10 out of 10 times if he's available. Now, Seahawks fans, you're on the board here. Donovan Ezeraku is a guy that interests me for the Seahawks. He's already being trended there. That makes some sense. Or they go a guy like Gray Zabel. Can play center, could play guard. But for me, they got to protect Sam Darnold. There's going to be edge guys later in the draft, but man, if they don't get this offensive line fixed, Sam Darnold is going to be back to the Jets Sam Darnold, where he looks like he doesn't deserve to be in the NFL. Sam Darnold can be effective if you give him time. But if you don't, he's going to be a dumpster fire. I'm going Gray Zabel at number 18. Now, Buccaneers fans, this is where the slide for our boy, Jody Barron, could potentially stop. It makes a lot of sense. A lot of injuries in that secondary last year. Jody is a very versatile guy. Slot. Could play outside. Could play safety. I'm going Jody Barron to the Buccaneers at 19. Now, the Broncos are up at 20. I'm going to do something that I don't know if people are going to want to do. But I think this is a very interesting trade spot. The Broncos, we'll see. But, looking at the way the board played out, Luther Burden's on the board. Donovan Ezeraku's on the board. Josh Simmons, Emeka Egbuka is on the board. I love Emeka Egbuka. And everyone's like, he's a slot guy. He's a slot guy. The dude's 6'1". He can play inside and outside. No freaking problem. Kenneth Grant could be interesting as well to the Broncos. With Omarion Hampton being gone, we look at the running back situation. They're not going to go Scatterboo in this spot. I think they go wide receiver here. And I'm going to go Emeka Egbuka. I love that spot because you put him outside. You got Cortland Sutton. You got Egbuka on the outside. Move Mims and Egbuka all around the formation. That could be really, really, really interesting for them. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you're on the board at 21 overall. Do we take Shedeur Sanders here at 21? That's really interesting. You know what I mean? Like, do they make a trade here? Probably not. They don't have a second round pick, so actually trading could make a lot of sense, right? So if we trade it with a team like, let's say, the Texans, right? We're going to swap 21 and 25, and maybe we add 79, 21 and 25. They got to add they want to add a second round pick, So we're going to add, or you go 25, 58, 79, 21 for 58 and 79. That could be interesting, right? But the Steelers are going to want to draft in the first round. I don't know if they got, if we would say they give 58 and then we give 123. What about 83? Okay, this is a little more interesting, right? So the Steelers are going to swap 21 and 25. So they're going to move back 4 spots. And they're also going to get 58. So they're going to be drafting in the second round instead of the third round. I think that makes a lot of sense for a team that could potentially come up and draft a quarterback. Offer this trade. It was accepted. So now the Texans are on the board at 21 overall. Right? So they're going to come up and get their guy, Josh Simmons. He's the best left tackle in this draft, and it's really not even close. When he's healthy, this dude is a freaking monster. He's got the best mirroring. He's the strongest blocker. He can hold blocks. I love Josh Simmons to the Texans there. Now, Chargers fans, you're up at 22 overall. And I'm bringing in Luther Burden. People are sleeping on Luther Burden. Luther Burden and Ladd McConkey. And you started to get some juice on offense with Justin Herbert, man. I love that selection there. Okay, now, Packers fans, you're on the board at 23. The cornerback situation is pretty dire. But so is wide receiver. Do they go a guy like Matthew Golden? 6 foot 190. I don't think so. But if they want to go X, they could go Jaden Higgins here, guys. A little bit of a stretch. This could be a trade back scenario for the Packers. Maybe. But when you take a look at the cornerbacks still available, they're going to go Trey Amos. Jair Alexander is going to be gone. They need an outside corner with some length. I like that spot there. Now, Minnesota Vikings fans, not a lot of picks here. No second round pick. I'm going to trade out of this spot. I think they're going to trade down. And then I'm going to do a trade. The Jets want to move up. Seattle wants to move up. Carolina could want to move up. Seattle can move up. I think I know the pick I'm going to do for Seattle. So we're going to move up. We're going to swap 24. And we're going to do 50 and 82. And 137. Would 92 do it too? Ooh, baby. So, let's see. All right, so we're going to swap out 24, right? And now we're going to add 50, 52, and 137. We need more picks. They need to get younger, right? So we're not going to have a first-round pick. Oh, well. So, but we're going to add a bunch of picks. Going to add 2 more picks. So, offer this trade. It was accepted. So, the Seahawks are going to move up, and they're going to draft Donovan Ezeraku, the edge defender there. I love that spot. The Seahawks did really, really good. Gray Zabel and Donovan Ezeraku. I love it. Okay, now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you're on the clock here at 25. And your man, Shedeur Sanders, is on the board, and I'm doing it. I'm pulling the freaking trigger. Shedeur Sanders goes 25 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rams fans, you're on the board here at 26. Offensive line could make some sense. You know, they brought back Alaric Jackson. On the right side of the offensive line, they're getting a little bit older, right? That could be interesting there. You know, the Rams definitely need a cornerback. Ben Morrison, I absolutely love. James Pierce Jr., the edge defender, he's on the board. Kelvin Banks, he's on the board. He could be really interesting. Josh Connerly Jr. could be really interesting as well for the Rams. You know, but looking at this board, I think Ben Morrison, dude, when I watch the tape, nobody stands out more to me than Ben Morrison. You know, Kenneth Grant, really interesting guy. I don't know if he's a scheme fit there, so I'm going to go Ben Morrison, 26 overall to the Rams. Now, where do we go here? Looking at the Ravens, right? At 27 overall. They need guard help, edge help, D-back help. But you know what? This Ravens team needs a true separator on the outside so bad, and Matthew Golden can do it for him, man. But Nick Scorton is on the board here. That's a really interesting pick as well. James Pierce Jr. to the Ravens. He's just a Ravens guy. I think Harbaugh will get him in line. They're not going to pass up on James Pierce Jr. Now, Lions fans, you're on the board here at this pick, at 28 overall. I love the Lions in this spot to get a difference maker on the edge. They like bigger edges. Nick Scorton's on the board. Aiden Hutchinson gets his running mate, and that's devastating for NFC teams. Now, Commanders fans, you're on the board here. Kenneth Grant to the Commanders, I really, really like it. I really, really like it. But sometimes in drafts, players slide. And I think Kenneth Grant, being like a nose tackle type, could potentially slide in this draft. Right now, Commanders fans, you're on the board here. Taking a look, Shamar Stewart on the board here. They need edge help. Shamar Stewart makes a ton of sense. Buffalo Bills fans, you're on the board here. Now, Kenneth Grant could make some serious sense to the Buffalo Bills. But the Buffalo Bills scheme doesn't really bode well for that, you know? So, I think cornerback is in play for them as well. Edge, Michael Williams, definitely could be in play for the Buffalo Bills. You know, they could use some edge help, some linebacker help. If we take a look at the cornerbacks left in this draft, Maxwell Harrison Jr., the speedster, right? 6'1", 186. I love this pick to the Buffalo Bills. He's a really good outside corner. They need help there. That's a great spot. Now, Kenneth Grant on the board. doesn't really fit scheme-wise for the Kansas City Chiefs, right? But they need offensive line help. Kelvin Banks is on the board. I'm going there. Now, Philadelphia Eagles fans, you're up at 32 overall. You know, if the board plays out like this, Derek Harmon, Savion Revel's on the board, Kevin Winston Jr., Josh Connerly Jr., Matthew Golden, you know, taking a look here at the way the board fell, Omar Norman Lott could make some sense for the Eagles. Kevin Winston Jr. is an excellent player, man. The Eagles need safety help. I'm going Kevin Winston Jr. to the Philadelphia Eagles at 32 overall. Now, Cleveland Browns, you're on the board here. They need a quarterback. Jalen Milrose on the board. Will Howard. This is not a place to take a quarterback, right? So they need offensive line help. If the board plays out like this, they're going to take the best offensive lineman available. That's Josh Connerly Jr. He goes to the Browns at number 33. New York Giants fans, you're on the board here at 34 overall. Yo, Kenneth Grant can make some serious sense for the Giants, right? I love that pick. Kenneth Grant goes to the Giants at 34 overall. Now, Titans fans, you're on the board here at 35. They need an outside wide receiver to pair with Cam Ward. Matthew Golden is that guy. Now, Jaguars fans, you got the tight end. Now, maybe this is a spot where you go D-line. Omar Norman Lott, really good player. I love that spot. Now, Raiders fans, you're on the board here at 37th pick overall. I want an X wide receiver. They get an X wide receiver. Jaden Higgins goes to the Raiders. Now, Patriots fans, you're on the board here. We got Ted McMillan at 12 after the trade down. We got 2 second-round pick. I'm really excited about this, right? I'm going to go Donovan Jackson here. Very versatile guy. Can play guard, can play tackle. They need offensive line help. That's the way to go. Bears took Omarion Hampton at number 10. Now, they need safety help. Definitely, right? So, Michael Williams is on the board as well. He could be really interesting to the Bears. Landon Jackson, he's on the board. He makes a ton of sense in the second round for them. I'm going to give them Landon Jackson there. Next up, Saints, you're on the board here at number 40. You went Armand Membu. I need to bring in another wide receiver in this room with Olave's injury history. Alec Iomanor from Stanford, big body, 6'2", 210, good hands, really good player. Now, Bears fans, you're on the board again. Xavier Watts is still on the board, so you're going to take him. I love that pick there. Okay, Jets fans, you're on the board here. Will Campbell in round 1. We're at 42 overall. Where do the Jets go here? Michael Williams, really interesting player. Could definitely help out that D-line for sure. Tyleik Williams. I like that spot for him for the Jets. Derek Harmon. I like that spot as well. 6'5", 310. Tyleik Williams, 6'3", 327. You know, I just like Derek Harmon a little bit more. I'm going to go Derek Harmon to the Jets. 49ers fans, you're up. We got Walter Nolan. They got a great edge player left on the board here. Michael Williams, no-brainer. Now, Patriots fans, just trading back in the first round. We still got Ted McMillan. We got Donovan Jackson. And now we have the opportunity to draft another great player at 44 overall. You know, do you go running back here? You know, that could be an interesting spot for them. But, you know, I'm taking the best player available. And then Princely Umanmielen, Cam Scatterboo is really interesting for sure. This could be another trade back situation to just accumulate more picks, right? Get a little more value, right? Brady Swinson I really like. Savion Revel is on the board still. Tyler Booker is on the board. You know, They could use another outside cornerback. Probably could use a safety. Kyle Williams on the board. Judkins, Nick Emmanwori's on the board here. Arante Ursary. You know what? I'm going to bring in a tackle. They need tackle help. And man, Ursary, from what I'm hearing around the league, people really love Ursary. So that could be a little bit of a reach. So maybe you trade down. Trade down. We're at 44. Falcons are on the board, 47, 51. Let's check out the Buccaneers. And then add 83. So we're going to swap 44 and 53. 84, and then let's add in 106. How about 144? Yeah, so we're going to swap 44 for 53. So we're going to go back 7 spots and then pick up 84 overall. I like that pick. Trade, just add in picks, right? So now the Buccaneers are on the board here. And they're going to come up to get Savion Revel at 44 overall. Colts, you're on the board. And here we're going to go Nick Emmanwori. They need safety help. Emmanwori goes 45 to the Colts. Falcons fans, you're on the board here. Mike Green, the edge defender. You know, the Falcons need a lot of help at a lot of places. Jack Betch can make some sense. Adding another wide receiver. Brady Swinson can make some sense, right? I do like Swinson, 6'4", 250. They already went edge, so I don't think they go there. They could go Tyler Booker, you know, that could make some sense. Demetrius Knight, they need linebacker help. Carson Schlesinger, he's on the board as well. Schlesinger seems to be the more popular player right now amongst draft analysts. People like Knight, but they really like Carson Schlesinger. So I'm going to go linebacker Carson Schlesinger to the Falcons at 46. Cardinals fans, you're on the board. We went Will Johnson. So this is a place we go interior defensive line. Tyleik Williams from Ohio State goes to the Cardinals. Next up, Dolphins, you're on the board. We went Malachi Starks there. You know, I'm going to go offensive line. Tyler Booker goes to the Dolphins. Next up, Bengals, you're on the board. They went Jahad Campbell. Here is where you can potentially add offensive line if you wanted to. But I'm going TJ Sanders, the interior defensive lineman. They need D-line help. Princely Umanmielen's on the board too. Brady Swinson's on the board. You know what? I'm going to go Braden Swinson. They need some edge help. Now, Vikings didn't have a first-round pick because we traded back. Now we got 2 2s, 50 and 52. So we take a look. They could go running back here, D-line, D-back. You know, I'm going to go Darius Alexander in the first pick with them at 50 overall. Broncos, you're on the board. We went Emeka Egbuka here. So we could add a wide receiver. A guy like Jack Betch could make some sense. Really good hand, 6'2", 215, you know. That could be in play for them, you know. We went Emeka Egbuka, but they're not going to add another wide receiver. Let's go running back here. And I think this could be a great pick for Sean Payton. I'm going to go Cam Skattebo. Surprise some people at 51 overall. Now, Vikings fans, you're on the board here. You know, they're getting a little bit older at the running back position. This could be a spot where the running backs start to fly off the board. Dylan Sampson's on the board here from Tennessee. 5'11", 200 pounds. Vikings fans could go edge here. They could need some D-back help as well. You know, when we take a look at the board here, no one I'm screaming at. I'm going to go one of these running backs, right? And I'm going to go Dylan Sampson to the Vikings at 52 overall. Now, Patriots fans, we went Tet McMillan, Donovan Jackson. We're going running back here. And we're taking one of my favorite running backs, Trevion Henderson. Trey Amos went early to the Packers. They're going to go edge here. I love Princely Umanmielen. I think he's a great pick there for the Packers at edge. I love that spot there. Now, Chargers fans, you're up at 55 overall. We went wide receiver in round 1. You know, I think this is the spot where we bring in a young tight end. A little bit of a reach, but Mason Taylor. Young guy you could develop. He's got really, really good genetics coming from Jason Taylor. I love that spot. Bills fans, you're up at 56 overall. We went cornerback, right? So, linebacker, Demetrius Knight on the board. They definitely could go edge here as well. D-line, TJ Sanders to Buffalo could make some sense, right? Demetrius Knight from the Bills. Yeah, I'm bringing him in. Demetrius Knight goes to the Bills. 57 overall. Carolina Panthers, you're on the board. We went linebacker. We're going receiver here, Jack Betch in the second round. Pittsburgh Steelers go Shedeur Sanders, number 1. Now, we're in the second round. They could go some D-line. That could be interesting there for sure. TJ Tuamalu, he's really interesting to Pittsburgh as well. But I think they need some cornerback help. They could go running back here as well. Caleb Johnson is still on the board. Check out the running backs. Quinshon Judkins. If there was ever a Pittsburgh Steelers running back, it's Quinshon Judkins. The run on running backs continues in round 2. Judkins goes to the Steelers at 58. Ravens fans, you're on the board here. They got James Pierce Jr. in the first round. D-back. One of these guards could be interesting as too. Jalen Royals makes some sense too, man. 6 foot 205. I like that pick. I do like Kyle Williams as well. 6 foot 186. Ravens could go a bunch of different places. We got the edge, D-back could make some sense. Guard could make some sense. But I want to give them another pass catcher on the outside. Jalen Royals. Zay Flowers can't do it all. They need someone else to catch the damn ball. Right? All right. Lions fans, you're on the board. They need guard help. So, desperately actually, Tate Ratledge goes to the Lions in the second round, 60 overall. Now, Commanders, you're up. We took Shamar Stewart, early in that first round. Where do we go here, Commanders fans? Running back could be really interesting for them here. Caleb Johnson is still on the board. I'm bringing an ace in the hole. I'm going Caleb Johnson. The last premium running back goes to the Commanders at 61. Bills, you're up on the board here. We went cornerback. We went linebacker. Edge makes some sense. 6'5", 269. JT Tuimoloau makes a lot of sense. Jared Ivey, the edge defender from Ole Miss. Jared Ivey, 6'6", 285. He's definitely more scheme-specific towards that 4'3", bigger edge guy. I'm going Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. And then Chiefs went Kelvin Banks early, right? TJ Sanders makes a lot of sense to the Chiefs, man. I love that pick for the Chiefs. And wrapping up our second round, Eagles, 64 overall. Taking a look at how this draft board played out. JT Tuimoloau, he's a monster, man. 6'5", 269. Could be fourth. He's more of a 4'3" guy. He doesn't really fit the scheme. Elijah Arroyo on the board. Makuba's on the board. Kyle Williams, Darian Porter from Iowa State's on the board. The board didn't play out great for the Philadelphia Eagles. Ursery's on the board. The way the board plays out, I'm probably going to go edge here. And Josiah Stewart or Oladejo. I like Josiah Stewart. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. 9 sacks, a lot of production, 28 hits and hurries. Oladejo, another guy I really, really, really like. I just think Josiah Stewart is a little bit better of a player. Kyle Kennard's on the board. CJ West, he's more of a 4'3" guy, so he doesn't really fit either. The way the draft board fell for the Eagles didn't do them any favors at all whatsoever. But you know what? Alfred Collins, he's more of a nose guy. Could be interesting to the Birds, though. But, yeah, I'm going to stick with my druthers. I'm going to go Josiah Stewart to the Philadelphia Eagles at 64 overall. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Here's round 1. Go over round 1 real quick. Tyler Warren goes to the Jags at 5. That's a surprise. Cowboys trade up to get Ashton Genty at 4. And Marion Hampton goes 10 to the Bears. Him and Ben Johnson's offense, super killer. Ibuka goes to the Broncos at 20. Ben Morrison to the Rams at 26. Eagles take a safety, Kevin Winston Jr. at 32. A lot of interesting plays here. Will Johnson, the tackle, goes to the Jets. All right, guys, there it is. My final 2-round mock draft. That's it. That's a wrap on 2025, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.